Welcome to Cosmic Brilliance, folks. Today's show will be clarifying for everyone and perhaps a bit mind-bending, which is a good thing since maintaining open minds is a prerequisite for soul growth maturity. In this show, you will be getting more asked for by subscribers, definitions and details on the roles and what your spirit is, what your soul is, what your astral body is, and what your oversoul and consciousness are. In addition, it appears to be very important that we clarify for you. Are you ready for this? This is an expanded concept. That there are different sources of all that is. Our indomitable returning guest, Dragon Fae creator Apollymi Mandylion, will be providing her knowledge of this and also answer 4 subscribers' questions that we have woven in there. So welcome back, Apollymi, and so glad that you are here to clarify for our extended family what appears to be misstrued as some contradictory information by different channelers.
I really appreciate you having me back, and I'm very excited for this episode.
Oh, good. You're looking pretty snazzy there. A warm welcome to our first-time listeners and a gentle reminder to start and check out episode 18, the very first video Apollymi and I did together, where she explains HANOVA Source's first universe. It is best to listen for first-timers. Pick one of the guests that you particularly are drawn to. They have their own playlists on Cosmic Brilliance, and you may want to start at the first one so you don't get lost. So that will explain more because she will be mentioning HANOVA in this conversation. Now, I will first ask Apollymi to use the Golden Source contract of protection, since you are actually being given a rare privilege of being given creator information. We have to walk a very fine line here because in the past history of Earth, well-intentioned off-worlders, masters came down to help humans, and the, shall we say, more mischievous, perhaps darker pirate elements took that information and misused it. That is not going to happen with our information. To prevent that, Apollymi, being a creator yourself, will say out loud the Golden Source contract of protection so that no one that outside misuses it at any level. Is that okay with you, Apollymi?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead and read that if you have it handy.
Right. I, Creator Apollymi, call upon the source of all that there is inside and outside of HANOVA and throughout, that this golden contract of protection activates from seeing, hearing, or interacting with any part of this information or video, that any conscious being or AI is not to use this information or any part of it spoken, seen, shown, or interactive for the purpose of negatively manipulating timelines, persons, consciousness, physical or astral bodies in any way, shape, or form, or breaking any laws set by any high council of Source that is governed by Source throughout all of the Oververse and HANOVA. I will it into existence, and so it shall be.
So be it. Thank you, Apollymi. So let's begin. Will you please briefly remind our listeners what HANOVA is so people have a reference point when you refer to it later on in the show?
Okay. Um, so HANOVA is what we call central universe. It is the first, uh, basically the first universe within this oververse. What I mean by oververse is, how do I describe this? If you think about a grapevine, HANOVA would be the vine before the grapes are even produced. And so without HANOVA, which is Central Universe, there wouldn't really be anything. It is, if you think about it, it is literally the core foundation for the Oververse. It has its own consciousness. Well, it has its own form of consciousness, and it implies all of what we would call creation. So it has all the frequencies of creation, which is something that a lot of the omniverses, if you don't know what those are, we did a huge thing. I don't remember what episode it was. I'm sure Merrily pointed out for you guys on the touch basis of HANOVA and the creation of the Oververse. So there is incredible high standard, very strict laws in HANOVA. We call these the laws, the golden laws of one. A lot of them are mistranslated in this universe, and a lot of them are incomplete compared to HANOVA. It is a non-free will universe, which means that you do not have the will to go and just do anything that you want there. Even though a lot of entities and creatures have a lot of ability, telepathic, psychokinesis, the ability to teleport, you don't have a lot of rules, or you don't have a lot of space to implement those abilities sometimes, especially if you're doing them in the wrong manner. You're not allowed to like teleport your friend somewhere without their actual will, because you were influencing yourself on them in a possible negative way. There is a lot going on there.
Okay.
So yeah, like a lot of the creators throughout all of the oververses, their head councils are basically from HANOVA itself. And this is the creator talk that we're going to be getting into on where these creator councils also come from. I believe we did one with a hierarchy just a little bit in past episodes. So we're just going to kind of remind touch basis here for this, because some people seem to be confused.
Thank you so much, Apollymi. On my channel, I've had other people channel Source of All That Is, such as Ileana the Star Traveler, as well as Amir's show, wonderful show where he channeled a beautiful channeling, very expansive and loving. And they all differ in energies, from more involved to more expanded, which seem to cause confusion in the minds of our listeners, and it's understandable. They found it contradictory a little bit. So I asked Apollymi to explain why this is so and clear this up for all of us. Now, many of you have listened to the most recent show with Amir, Void Dragon, Dr. Amir, who channeled Source of All That Is for 1 hour. And before we continue, I have a cute transparency story to share with you regarding the process of setting that show up. I think you're going to get a chuckle out of this. And this gives you an idea of of the different access points. So I ask Amir, I go, Amir, I bet you can channel, Source of All That Is. And have you ever done that before? And he says, oh, for 5 minutes once, but shouldn't be a problem. And I said, considering who you are, I wouldn't think so. Okay. And then he winks at me and goes, come up with some saucy questions, which I'm like, yeah, okay, this will be fun. So I spent 2 days coming up with saucy questions. And as soon as he began to channel, I'm like, he is channeling such an expanded, positive, loving that all my questions are irrelevant. Whereas they worked with the one with Ileana that was a little bit more, shall we say, earth human, relatable, different frequency. And so I winged the rest, but one of those questions I asked was, are there any source of all that is besides you? Okay, and that moves into the theme. So you can listen to that. And then people were a little confused that Amir's was so expanded and loving and not worried about anything. um and so we're gonna clear, and then Amir and um Apollymi on our show with the updates, we're like talking like, nope, we're doing soul auditing. This is what's going on. So they were confused. So that's what we're here today to clear up. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So I contacted Apollymi and asked her directly, are there other sources of all as well? And she said yes. So Apollymi, please share your insights about this to clarify any confusion and for the public on the perceived variations of answers by the different channelers channeling source of all that it is, or a version of it. This is, folks, about inclusivity, not judgment. And it is about understanding more about the infinite complexity of the huge omniverse and oververse. So, where would you like to start, Apollymi, to explain all of this?
I think explaining a little bit of the oververse would help people understand this a lot better. So if we can, I mentioned the grapevine before, but we can also use the tree of life, which is something that I did back in the later episodes so much. And if you consider HANOVA the like over part of the tree, just call it like the mother tree of the forest. Okay, every forest has what we call the mother tree. It helps network the entire forest, provides nutrients to all the little saplings. Every sapling from this mother tree is going to be another universe, right? There are 7 what we call omniverses that are separated outside of HANOVA. So we can consider these another form of trees. And then from those trees, there are like millions and thousands of what we call separate universes. So if we consider every omniverse a different type of tree, and their saplings, all of the other universes from that tree. It all networks together. If a woodpecker goes and pecks on one of the smaller sapling trees, the rest of the oververse isn't going to, the rest of the forest is not going to really get a lot of feedback. Okay. It might hear a noise or so, but it's not going to be, it's not directly related to it. And the tree itself is the only one that's going to have that experience of that bird interacting with it. This is direct consciousness. Now, if a forest fire happens, all of that networking through those tree roots, the entire forest, the entanglement of a collective consciousness, the animals, the plants, the bugs, they all know something is up. And so it's a grand event enough to create this ripple effect of networking that there is something wrong, something is coming, something is dangerous and happening enough that the entire forest needs to know about it is the best way. So in an isolated event, say this universe, we have a lot of strife going on in this universe, a lot of bad things happening, and a lot of the other universes and the oververse didn't really know about it like at all because we're such an isolated event until it got bad enough to where it started spilling over into other parts of the oververse, not just omniverses, but oververse. Did it actually get the attention of and the influence, the negative influence and impact it was having from the golden laws being broken and all this other stuff? The frequencies of this universe were so damaged that it started to become cancerous to the surrounding universes and it started spreading. So, of course, it got the attention of the oververse, and the councils were like, hey, what's going on over here? So
Mhm.
that is direct consciousness. Like, it wasn't just people going and saying, hey, this event is happening over here. You could see the ripple effect through the health of the other universes surrounding everything that was happening. Does that make sense?
Yes, that. But I also want to share what you said in the pre-talk because all this will also help. Help is you said just on Earth alone, collective consciousness. This was so great. It's like having at least 8.5 billion humans, not counting all the other different forms of life. So it is like Source has all 8.5 to 10 billion papers on its desk just for Earth alone, let alone the simultaneous omniverse. And just because this was the big key point that I thought was also hit home for me, just because Source has the downloaded data, Source of all has a downloaded data, it does not mean it is filed yet.
Correct. So
I love
again, just like a computer, a computer can download things, but it's not going to boot up its system or have the programming fully done until it is filed. And so if what is happening, everything that has happened here in this universe has been downloaded to HANOVA, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily filed yet. It is literally, HANOVA is the source of all creative consciousness in this bubble, and we'll get more into that later. I have to be very gentle with this, and the creator councils have like always begged me to be gentle with this because I'm a very blunt, very straightforward person. But it can be mind breaking for most people to know that there are other universes out there, let alone things past HANOVA. And that's about all I'm going to say about that. So if you think about HANOVA in general as a full, as an organ in an entire body, okay, we'll call it the brain, it's still a part of something greater. All of the collective consciousness is still there sharing and experiencing, and that body has its own environment and it can go on from there. Um, it's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. Is there more past the collective consciousness of all that there is that most people could understand of that is HANOVA for our collective oversphere? My ideology of the body thing will speak for itself. Um, but on saying that, if Nova is literally the brain of the body and all of the stuff, like this universe would be like on like the tip of your finger is a blood cell, okay? It's very tiny, very minute. Is any conscious being going to have the ability to communicate with the brain that is just a blood cell? Like there's a lot of data that has to be transmitted and downloaded and filed. Um,
To really
so
get its attention.
yeah, to really get its attention. I mean, the only time a blood vessel, or not blood vessel, a blood cell is going to get attention is if it starts a stroke, okay?
Or the cancer starts invading the whole body.
Or a cancer starts invading the whole body.
So, are you? I think you said in the pre-talk. I loved how you did this. This the direct consciousness of Source of all that you are in contact with basically is saying, I need a redo on this omniverse or oververse. Is that kind of the thing? Like this has to be redone or reset or whatever word you want to use. Is that true?
Yes. So Um, Most of HANOVA itself doesn't have a lot of what we would call disease frequency or anything like that because of the strict rules that are happening. But once you get outside of HANOVA, rules change. Every Immortal Seven has their own uh, section to govern, their own rules to create while still maintaining some of the laws of one. Just like in this universe, we're supposed to have some form of laws of one, even though this is an experimental universe, and there's so much wrong with this universe. Um, but it was still supposed to have some base rules, and they were not followed because of a lot of things that happened during the Source War that just got done and we're now on cleanup. It literally made the Immortal Seven think that maybe they took a standby a little too much. They weren't filing their data correctly or whatever. But yes, the entire HANOVA and outside of HANOVA for its creation. Okay, so we're talking about one organ, not the entire body of existence, of all that there is. Okay, if HANOVA is just the brain, all that there is obviously there is so much more out there. Um, the entire brain needs to be reworked. It is not educated, not not fed nutritionally. There's a lot of things going on. It's been on TikTok too long. Yeah,
Right,
so
right.
it needs exercise, it needs discipline, it needs an overhaul. And so that's what the soul audit is doing throughout all of the Oververse and even within HANOVA itself. So
And
uh
just briefly go over the soul auditing because some people uh, didn't listen to the whole series on the health series, knowing that it was way beyond, had updates at the start of letting you know what was going on in the universe. So just briefly, I would like to say that Apollymi was a key player to finally get the council's butt here to see the situation, the immortals here. And she'd been working on that for a long time. She's also a key player at asking for soul auditing, and I backed her up on that and independently also asked for that. And so that is what is happening and needed. So, explain just briefly soul auditing. So, from this vantage point of this particular source of all that is, it said we do need to clean up. Okay. And
yeah.
so they listened to you and it got the message because we're all aspects of source, as spoken of before. And so, just briefly, since mid April, uh, just talk about source being attacked and what's going on, just briefly.
Okay. The Source Wars ended up happening earlier this year. That was implemented in by one of the champions of the Immortal Seven of Light. I'm not saying that it wasn't me, but anyway, basically what had happened is enough people had gone to Source and stated that Source, I mean Source HANOVA for the Immortal Sevens, stated that things have not been good here. There was a lot of negative factions who did a lot of bad things in a very quick movement. Source of HANOVA was not going to stand for that. And Source of HANOVA itself, so this is consciousness of all of the sphere that we exist in, claimed war on these factions, not only in this universe, but other parts of the omniverse as well. So a lot of us were thinking that these negative factions had only gotten help from adjacent universes, but that wasn't the case. They had gotten information, technology from universes that were supposed to be benevolent. They were supposed to be high 20th dimension tier, following all the rules of one, everything else like this, and they didn't. It's very small factions, but these small factions ended up causing a cataclysmic event. the war was fought as Source had called in for champions to represent their ability and power of the divine light, whether it be void light or prana source light itself. The same principle. They all fight for the same source, and ended up annihilating 99.9% of these people. We are still on cleanup, but the soul audit is from this event. And the Immortal Seven and Source itself, because the Immortal Seven are avatars of Source HANOVA, the consciousness of Source, that things had gone awry. They weren't paying attention. They weren't doing their job as they were supposed to. And a lot of things had slipped through the cracks. Every single consciousness that has ever come to being is now being soul audited with certain requirements. I have no idea what those requirements are. Uh, that any extreme and negative being, and I say negative as in these are the people who are doing like human trafficking, very traumatic stuff, not following the laws that are set down by the true creator councils of each universe. The true creator councils, and even the council members are not immune to the soul audit. So, and what the soul audit is if you fail, you get your identity stripped and our consciousness goes right back to source after being purified.
Okay. Because there was always this benevolent patience, like free will thing, and your understanding of dealing directly with the source of all that is from Nova was basically like done. No second
Yeah.
chances, no third chances. You've been warned, you've been told, uh, you know, it was very lenient and fair, gave a lot second chances, and these pirate types found every single loophole possible.
Oh, they tried. They even made loopholes,
Yes.
and the loopholes are no longer valid. They are not allowed to hide behind the face of innocence anymore. Unfortunately, innocence will be taken out, but they will be given the chance to reincarnate, while the other ones will not. So, yeah, Source is taking very dramatic steps right now. Source HANOVA is taking very dramatic steps right now to redefine and rebuild all of the oververse. And there's a lot of changes coming, not even just in heaven, but in hell. For those who have kept up on our hell series, I will be doing quite a bit in the next like 10,000 millennia. um,
Everything is going into redemption programs and reevaluation and stuff. So, Apollymi, sharing your job now, both Apollymi and Amir brought forward these updates. Okay, and that's why they were confused why the channeling was so different than didn't when I mentioned the updates, it was kind of like, oh, no big deal, it's handled. But Apollymi, why don't you describe your job without giving away too much, and Amir's job, because you both fought for source of all the.
right. And we actually fought alongside each other as well, jumping through different omniverses and things where it was the worst battle that I've ever had to be in, and I've been in the Super Soldier Project since I was 5.
That's,
So it was not good. Um,
but
my job
but you
is,
won.
yes, but we all won with a lot of losses, unfortunately. But uh my job is working directly with the Immortal Seven. I am a champion of the Immortal Seven of Light. I have been for many, 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 many thousands of years, all the way before my life in Atlantis, which is why I was one of the protectors of Atlantis, and we all saw how that worked out. But redemption.
Yeah.
uh,
And a Terra protector, which is the name
I
of Earth.
I used to be what they would be called a Terra Guardian. They are actually part of uh, the Andromeda Sirian slash and Andromeda itself council that you get inaugurated into, and you take an oath to protect whatever planet they really want you to. There are Terra Guardians here on Earth who have not been very well maintained, unfortunately, ever since the year 2000. A lot of our Guardians went away during the Dragon Wars, actually, and never came back. A lot of us just got forgotten down here, especially for new recruits. So we've pretty much been on standby this whole time. But I ended up leaving the Terra Guardians to join a more prominent and in the game positive faction. So I haven't been a Terra Guardian for quite a while, but
So your job is with Source is clean up as a soldier and starting redemption programs. Would you say that's fair to say?
I actually am leaving the soldier program I got assigned for a different task. And if you guys watch the Hell series, that would be my new task that I've been assigned from Source. So I no longer have to fight, thank goodness. I am very pleased about that. Um, my cleanup is basically reformation and redemption, not on just this planet, because when I leave here, this planet, I'm not really coming back unless I have to. And it better just be for the last part of the audit for this planet. Uh, but it's for the entire Hanovian oververse. My abilities and what I can offer just are a lot more valuable off planet and helping everybody from there. The redemption abilities for this planet will actually come from a different group that I'm working with, several of them. So I will be keeping my eye on you. But so everyone here will have the ability to manifest and go through it. I highly recommend you guys going through, or everybody going through the Ascension part, because that is a good part to start off with, as it brings you to your true self. It brings you to knowledge of the universe, and get you out of that manipulative stance.
And what she's talking about are two shows we did, which I'll mention at the end, early on the Ascension, the seven tiers of Ascension, etc. Okay, so that briefly, without giving too much away, is your present job. Now, without giving Amir's private business away, the difference is because he has a slightly different job,
Mhm.
and describe that with the source he was channeling, if you could.
Oh, so from my understanding, Amir is a very in-depth soul, very powerful. I do know quite a bit about his work. Uh, in our last interview with him, I believe he mentioned that he was one of the creators of this universe.
Mhm.
Now that gives him a whole new playing field of communicating with the oververse, because he, as a actual creator, which we'll get into the difference between a co-creator and an actual creator and what the differences are for job description. Amir is an actual creator. Amir had to go through the councils that are governed by Source HANOVA's councils of the Immortal Seven to actually get authorized to have the knowledge, to know the laws, and to abide by things in order to be part of a creator council and govern universes. You have to have a license for this. You can't just magically make something. There is a lot of laws, and people can get themselves into trouble if they just decide to do that. So he has the ability to channel many different types of what we call all the creator of all that there is, or consciousness of all that there is. Because when you look at the standpoint, uh, for a normal channeler here on Earth, who it may not be that high tier of consciousness, you're only going to get this universe. Because to you, that's all that there is. You don't have the ascension level to actually communicate. Your antenna is not big enough to get out into other forms of all that there is consciousness, whether it be this universe that's tied to this oververse, that's tied to HANOVA, and tied to beyond. So, reeling my energies here a little bit, sorry. um, so it really depends on your tier of basically connecting to consciousness itself. Now, someone's consciousness who could have just been created in this universe, all right, and that's the source of all that is for them, because their oversoul, we'll get to that later, their oversoul, their first consciousness was only created in this universe, not in any other universe, not in any part of the omniverse or HANOVA. So the the other parts of people who have been consciously created in other universes that are higher dimension, or in HANOVA itself, have the ability to channel greater than someone who is just born consciously on a lower dimension universe. I hope that makes sense.
And
Like
Amir
you
is
have to,
one of them. It's just more bandwidth. He because
there is more
more
bandwidth.
bandwidth because he can resonate to all the places he's been, which is vast rather than just one universe. And so
Yes.
you're um that's why his was like much more expansive than most. Positive, general, like it's dynamic, balancing, don't worry, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
And
Whereas, right? Whereas the one in Nova is going, nope, we're gonna get this done. We have to fix up this place, right? Which is good.
yeah.
That's what we wanted.
Yeah. So when he's like, I'm channeling of source all that there is, sometimes you're going to get multiple universes or even omniverses trying to communicate with them, because you have to be, again, and we talked about this, channeling through your higher selves. How can you tell the difference between your highest self and your astral body? You have to ask questions. You got to know who you're talking to. So when he's like, oh yeah, this is chill, this is cool, he could have been talking to 5 omniverses over that's having a great time and not influenced by any negativity, or even beyond Hanova. Or, I mean, Hanova and most of the Hanova itself, like that consciousness is just really upsetty right now. It's starting to calm down, but um just a lot has happened, and it's going through a lot with everything. The conscious universe here is like, we got to get this going, we got to get this done now. There's a lot of transitioning happening. This one is rearing and ready to go to start a new era. So depending on your bandwidth is depending on who you're going to be channeling. Now, most of these channelers, unless they're very inexperienced, will know exactly who's talking to them. And of course, there are rules down here about how much information you can give out without getting in trouble by the source of all that there is. Because again, you don't give schematics of creation to children who don't even understand the physics. So going through Ascension, you can unlock the ability. It's like going from preschool to college, okay? You get more information, you get more rights, okay? Because you understand what you're doing, you understand the responsibilities of that knowledge and when not to use it.
Okay. And correct me if I'm right. I think this is what you said in our pre-talk that's wonderful so far, is just to summarize, because that's very clear. So people, it's not a contradiction. It depends on the vantage point and how expansive. And Apollymi didn't get a chance to listen to Amir's beautiful channeling, but it was very expansive, very loving, and very deep. It wasn't like a, hey, bro, how's it going? So now, so the bottom line with the mirror right now, what I believe we can say is he is here to teach also ascension and what is required to move from victim to an understanding of co-creator and creator, which will be my next question. He is one of the major ones in charge of making rules here and the new rules. And those rules are in the process, as Apollymi said, of changing and reforming. He is definitely one of the key creators of this creation, and he knows the laws of this universe and is in charge of maintaining it. So we are very, is that correct so far?
Mhm.
Okay, and that's all we're going to say. So we're very, 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 did I say very fortunate to have both Amir and Apollymi to give you this top level information. And remember, in shows in the past, I brought up the word grok because most people's brain is going to hurt and they're just going to go, oh my god, this is, how does my brain process infinity? How does my brain process multiple sources of all that is? How does my brain process this, right? What you're just going to grok it, which is done here in the heart. It's a word from Stranger in a Strange Land, which is where you may not know how to write the science equation, you may not know all the laws, you may not whatever, but you can conceive and grok infinity and understand the massive diversity and options that life is given for soul growth and reformation. So it's very exciting what's going on here. Now, so Apollymi, if you have something to add, go ahead. But you've done a great job so far. And let's talk about the definition, which you brought up, of learning to be a creator, which literally, if you're doing the big picture stuff, you have to qualify and take classes and get the golden oath, and a co creator as a job description. Because I'm always asking people, step into your creatorship, step into your co-creatorship, move out of victim, heal yourself. This is, and you will be more potent. I mean, it's just what it is, right? So go ahead and I know it has to be registered by source and all that. Why don't you explain a little bit about that, if you would?
Okay. So the difference between a creator with a big C versus a co-creator is, again, the creators are individuals who have passed tests that are very grueling on knowledge and a whole laws and a whole bunch of other stuff. They actually work with councils from the Immortal Seven of Light, who are avatars of Source itself, of HANOVA. And for most people, like, this is where creation of all that there is because most people can't either fathom or it's like DNA in a cell of a blood cell of in a body, okay? Like if the cell is the brain cell and that's HANOVA, like you're not really going to go past the brain into the body of creation itself. With a lot of specifics that you need, it's just a lot really hard for most people. Not saying no one can obtain that high, it's just you really got to work at it. Um, anyway, so these laws are set down by source of HANOVA to have individuals take this test, pass the test, and it gives them knowledge of how to do things. And there's certain tiers of these tests. Just because a individual passed the test to this is a very tiny, small beta universe. The creators of this universe, I'm not offending anybody, I don't mean it offensive, is like the baby version of being a creator. Okay. If you are new and you just passed your driver test, okay, this universe council would be like the first place to be. Uh, so
Well, it's a practice place too because it's an experiment, even though it's oppressive.
it
Yeah.
it is an experiment, but because the density levels and the creation stuff that it takes to make this universe is not that complex, it is considered a baby universe. And we're not talking like through the experimental, we're just talking about like certain parts of it's easy to manage. It should be easy to manage if they didn't add all the rules of the piracy and everything else. That's why we don't understand why it failed so hard, because it was so easy to take care of. It's like a cactus. You just water it like once a month and that's it. So,
I think my thing is that two things. One, if you give everybody 100% free will, then the super soldier projects and some of the darker aspects of them spend all their time usurping that, finding loopholes, doing all of that kind of thing, and give themselves uh, permission to way go overboard. And the second one might is that many creators and councils are doing so many things, and the time, as mentioned before in a previous show, is a big differential. Like when you went to the Andromedum Council, and said, and even when an immortal came here, what you shared publicly was when you finally got them here to see what a mess it was, it said, what happened? It's only been 5 minutes. In the meantime, for humans, it's been 250,000 years. So
galactic years.
galactic years, or even longer. So that's a huge issue also. So there's a lot of things that need to be sorted out with this.
Yeah, like time frame is different for them. But I mean, the Universal Council here has experienced C card creators. You know, not everyone was a novice. Amir is definitely not a novice. That's all I'm saying about that. You know, and you know, it's just other universes that had this setup creation, not the BS that happened here, but uh, you know, most of them were thriving and doing okay. So again, we were like, what the heck happened? So there's a difference between being a creator on a council, because most of them are on a council, usually of seven or more, and versus being on a creator council on an oververse, you know, or a creator council on the omniverses. The omniverse, like every omniverse is governed by an immortal seven, but you know, they have their council as well. Say like the immortal seven of water has the immortal there's only one immortal seven for the water omniverse, but they have their own council to help govern everything for the creator councils going down. Every creator council who gets a C card has to sign a golden contract by source. You know, these are upholding the laws, doing all this, doing all that. If they disobey those, there are repercussions that happen, and those are varying, and it really just depends on your level of your C card. If a creator is new at things, they're not going to have the same knowledge and of like more complicated physics or experience or anything like that than a creator of a higher tier. So you can't judge all creators equally because everyone's got their own stuff going on. Everyone's an individual. As for a co-creator is any individual who has their own consciousness. All right. Co-creators, uh, though, most people don't have their C card, you have the ability to manipulate your own free will to get yourself amped up to do anything. You all come from source, no matter where your oversoul was originally born. Not everyone was born from source HANOVA. Not everyone was born from, the same omniverse. So our frequencies are all different. Our abilities of doing things are all different. And you have the ability to have the laws of attraction, to attract things to yourself, money, friendship, a good partner, a good family. It's all basic science of manipulating energy around you and interacting with other consciousness fields, being able to sense them, having that connection of, the over conscious connection with the universe that you were born in or the one that you're just currently residing in. um Having the ability to, if you don't have abilities now, you might start evolving into having the abilities later. This is all still creation abilities that is within your rights. Do you have the ability to alter timelines? No, that's not your authority. You cannot alter anything that is not yourself. That is the main rule. And even in this universe, that has been broken by a lot of the negative factions, they are not allowed to hijack you and throw you into anything else. So, are you allowed to manipulate your own reality in other universes? Like adjacent universes? Uh, yes and no. Because it is a part of you, but you better be high enough to actually have connection with your astral body or your higher self in order to do that. Because some people are very important in certain timelines, certain events have to happen. So even though you might have that ability, doesn't mean it's a good idea to have that. And this is where knowledge of power comes from and responsibility. So you have to be reliable to yourself to know the rules. And usually your astral body, if you connect to it, or your oversoul or higher self can help you with that. um, Self-respect for yourself and your environment and others, you know, having um the ability to understand and just be, what's the word you like to use so much, Merrily? The
Oh,
word you
CARE, the acronym.
huh? Yeah,
The acronym that I made, compassionate attention with responsible encouragement.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Now you're going to get into all those terms next. We don't want to get too out there with them, but that explained. And I do feel as a co-creator, you by your intention, when you move out of victim and the more healed that we make ourselves, by our intention, we change our own hologram and reality. Absolutely. And collective. I want to make sure they know that.
Yes. And again, because you are a creator, even if you've had bad things happen to you, this doesn't mean that it defines you for all that you are. I say all that you are because it will leave a mark on you, but it's up to you on how much it does. If you're in victim mode, you're putting yourself there, and don't get triggered because I know a lot of you are. I say this because it is going to take you to understand why you feel like a victim, understand what happened, because that's two different things, and then what you need to resolve that. What is it that you need to resolve? The fact that I don't want to be a victim anymore. What do I need? An apology? Do I need reformation? Do I need, all this? And sometimes there's going to be nothing that can be done. And that's when you just need to learn to let it go because it's toxic. You don't need it in your life. Drop it like a hot sack of potatoes and walk away. All right. Know that justice will be done eventually, but it won't be done through you. You have the ability as a co-creator to start new even if you have to sell everything that you own, move away from everything that you own, you need to take care of yourself, but you have that ability. You are smart enough, you are strong enough to understand what you need. And the energy of attraction, when you stop being victim mode and you stop fighting the laws of the golden spiral and the silver spiral, things will step into place for you. The universe won't fight you anymore. Things will start coming to you when you need it. But you got to stop pushing back in the wrong ways.
Yes, Amir calls that less impedance.
Mhm.
Electrically, you just flow and you're less resistant. Thus, folks, the reason to begin to contemplate the big picture.
Right? It's
Because
like trying to swim upstream the wrong direction with a paddle, and only when you stop rowing will the boat take you where you need to go. You might want to go upstream, but downstream there might be a bridge.
thank you so much, Apollymi, for giving greater clarity about the different sources of all that is, so to speak. And I want to continue on addressing some requests from the subscribers that have been very loyal. And one who is an author, Jake Mueller, requested that you please describe definitions, roles, and the interconnectedness of source oversoul, higher self spirit, astral body soul. Now, in episode 20, we provided the definitions of those terms, and you can see that on screen. I'm putting up now a graph that describes those terms. For those listening as a podcast, Apollymi will briefly describe what people are seeing on screen now. So go ahead, Apollymi.
Thank you. As we can see or not see, it is a graph of what we call the four bodies of humans. And the first part of consciousness is going to be the prime creator of source. This is what most people would consider source of all that there is for any source that they reside by. The next one is going to be the oversoul, and this is your consciousness that is divided right down from source. The next one is your higher self or spirit, and we're going to get into that later. The next one is the astral body or your soul, and then below that is your physical body.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, a couple of the terms Jake wanted, a few of those mean the same thing. So, we'll go on and talk about that. But before you clarify that, I wanted to share with you that I came across a recent 6-minute clip found on a website called Next Level Soul by Bashar, which many of you know him. It's Daryl Anka's future self is an Essassani hybrid Zeta human being, and he is channeling, as synchronicity would have it, the kind of interconnectedness of how to fractalize yourself from the higher self down, which I'm going to read first because it's really worth it. It's a beautiful description, and I'll read it slowly. And then I'm going to have Apollymi comment on that as we go through the terms. So this is a quote, and Bashar and Next Level Soul get all credit. Even though it looks this way from our linear physical perspective, the spirit or higher self does not enter the body. The body exists within the spirit higher self. The soul sphere is filled with different concepts that are represented by different ripples of energy. If a soul decides it wants to have a physical reincarnation, it asks itself, what challenges do I wish to have to expand my soul evolution and growth? Each specific ripple, i.e., frequency, within the soul, Bashar says, represents those challenges. He continues, the soul takes those frequencies and literally concentrates or densifies them in the center of the soul sphere as a focal point. It represents a crystallized seed, representing the crystallization of those particular vibrations, which represent specific experiences. That crystal focal point in the center of the soul is the physicalized personality, experience, and body. It is everything physical we experience. That is all happening within the soul. When the physical reality allows itself to expand back out a little and matches the vibration of the soul in dealing with the physical experiences and challenges that are presented to it, then your body and your physical life starts becoming more aligned and capable of flowing more of the soul through itself in a more natural way. It starts by imposing limitations or challenges upon itself to learn new lessons and gain new perspectives. It cannot limit itself at the soul level because the soul level has access and connection to everything. And in a certain manner of speaking, there is no change. Thus, when a soul limits itself by creating a focal point, what I call intention, it has the experience of forgetting who it is in order to expand. And in the expanding slowly, as we're going through now, remembers who it is, thus becoming bigger and bigger, expanding outwards to the diameter of our soul sphere. That way, it continually learns lessons and discovers new ways to expand out into the soul sphere. In its next incarnation, it takes these same vibrations and ripples and concentrates them in the middle again and expands back out in a different way, learning different lessons. The idea of reincarnation is like the soul breathing within itself, focalizing, concentrating into a focal point, and exhaling, expanding back out into a new direction. And this goes on constantly. End of quote. I thought that was an amazing, amazing description. Apollymi, what do you think of what Bashar shared?
I think that they shared a very accurate description of the spirit, or actually the highest self, higher self, fractaling itself into many astral bodies in order to have isolated experiences.
Hmm. And those
And
astral bodies are within the soul sphere it's describing?
so the soul sphere that it's describing is like the overconsciousness of the individual. And so the astral bodies, when they are done, because you can have many of them, a higher self can have many of them, will eventually go back to its higher self with all of that knowledge and experiences. So the your energies and your tethers or astral shards are still going to be within that sphere because it is your consciousness, even though it is a lower form, like just a down form. Um, because the more you fractal, the how do I put this? The more you fractal, every fractal has its own like slight blueprint, but the personality of the consciousness evolves differently.
Interesting. Okay, so the astral body is the same as the soul. That's what you've said, right? And
Correct.
is that in this explanation Bouchard said, is that represented by the ripples?
So the ripples that they're explaining, if I am translating this correctly, is literally the ripples of consciousness of
Intent.
the experiences going back into around the sphere and into the higher self once again. So that all that experience, all of that knowledge is going through without. And you know, it is literally the consciousness that you're trying to connect to when you channel through yourself to your higher self. You can get that knowledge.
Okay, so do you want to define any more about the astral body and the soul, its role, what it looks like, and how it is different than a spirit?
Yeah, we can go through the higher self and the spirit, and then the astral body and the slash soul
Okay.
for definitions.
To honor Jake's request, he once described, and now we know that the spirit and higher self are the same thing. He wants its role described and what it looks like, but it's mostly energy, right? You go ahead and describe.
So the higher self, as we relate back to the graph from earlier, is underneath your oversoul. Your higher self has a bit of its own identity, and it has the ability to what we call fractal or shard itself into m as many as it wants of astral bodies to have different experiences. The higher self does not overly, for most people, have a form. This depends on uh, how old your higher self is in creation. It depends on how many experiences that it has had and all of the knowledge it has accumulated and DNA blueprints that it has accumulated from its experiences fractaling down. Most people will only have one higher self. It is incredibly rare to have more than that. And it is basically your what we would call your duality. So you have a golden and silver spiral that exists within it. It allows you to exist on higher slash lower planes of dimensions because of its physics. And because of that, it's going to have more interesting diversity in experience for physics and manifestation than the fractals down of your astral bodies. So this is mainly where most of your power lies when we are trying to tap into our higher selves or our spirit to guide us to manifest things and for knowledge.
Okay, so that's the spirit higher self is the part of us that is the closest to source, so to speak, or source moving through that has like the biggest overview picture and wisdom, hopefully. Is that also fair to say or no?
So the Oversoul, which is right above your higher self, has the biggest over picture, but the Oversoul does not have a lot of physics to actually integrate things. It's more of like the observer, than anything. Your higher self has it's the mechanic. It has the ability to create more. It's got more physics to work with, a little bit more jive. So
Okay. All right, interesting. All right, great. Now, what about the astral body slash soul, which answering his question are also the same thing? What is their role? What does it look like, its size, and how it's different than spirit?
the astral body is fractals of your higher self. There can be many, many, many astral bodies from the higher self, but what a consciousness like yourself right now is experiencing is only one experience. The astral bodies won't usually interact with each other, usually. Um, and our experiences are all individualized for everything that happens. On this part, your astral body is kind of it depends on how old the higher self is, like I explained, whether or not your astral body will have a form. Because of the ability of DNA collection when you reincarnate into every uh, species, your DNA is absorbed into your astral body, and it gives you a variant of like make your own creature body experience for your astral form. Some astral bodies can be DNA replicas of six, uh, reincarnations down for what they like. And some are just orbs where they choose not to take a body at all. And the orb is basically it is your soul. And because it's round because of the electromagnetic field that it produces, which is about the only shape true to sacred geometry that it would take. So the role of the astral body is to experience, as it said in the paragraph, many, many forms of realities. Your astral bodies, when they reincarnate into places, have very limited physics sometimes, depending on what dimensions that your astral bodies get to reside on. Um, Not all astral bodies are treated the same for the ability to travel through what most people would be considered the astral plane. And this is because of frequency differentiation. It is different than being very close to source. So some astral bodies that are very new can only travel through one universe, while other astral bodies that are very old can travel through many multiple universes.
Fascinating. Okay. So when people go to bed at night, some know how to astral travel where they're using their astral body. But what about if you don't know how to use your astral body? Do you sometimes never connect with it, or do you connect with it but don't remember? Like, how does that work?
Some people's astral bodies are very tethered to the physical body, so they stay very close to it. Though the astral body has a different conscious view of its existence, um, some bodies some astral bodies will be very aware of this and be able to go traveling when the person sleeps or awake in some cases and have its own experience and then decide to come back. If the physical body is connected very well, the physical body will get downloads of memory or experiences from your soul slash astral body. Uh, but the astral body has the ability to travel anywhere that its frequencies allow it to.
Fascinating. And you just mentioned the astral body contains our memories.
Yes.
So that's what you want to access if you want to find out more about who you are on other realms, I guess, too, right?
Yes. So the first part of accessing your soul memories is obviously going through the stages of ascension. Um, but even then, the astral body is still limited sometimes to your higher self memories. There's always tiers that you have to ascend to and go through. But your astral memories will give you, this is where your most of your past life memories will start to come through. Uh, and sometimes the astral body has the ability to erase memories from from itself, for the DNA and or just in general, mostly like what most people call potato farming, you
Yeah.
know. Potato farming days where there's nothing really going on and you just kind of toss that out the window. Um,
Dolores Cannon used that phrase, yeah, in
yeah,
hypnosis.
yeah. I think I got that phrase from you actually.
Yeah, that's cute. Okay, so Jake also wanted to know if all these elements of the soul you just discussed all exist in the astral realm.
The astral realm is a new agey term for anything that does not reside on this plane. It is very vast because it inquires all planes and dimensions and all parts of the oververse. So your astral body again only gets to go for the frequencies it can vibrate at. Everything that happens within the consciousness of your soul slash astral body, your higher self slash spirit, is on many different planes of existence, of consciousness. So it's kind of hard for them to connect sometimes, but you can get that collective consciousness of yourself.
Because the last question Jake had is or that I'm interpreting is how does consciousness relate to this all?
The experiences that we all have through our physical bodies, our astral bodies, our higher selves, all eventually go to our oversoul. And as we explained before in one of our past episodes, all of our conscious experiences helps us as an individual to be resilient, to be problem solving, to be compassionate, but it also helps source to be resilient, compassionate, and have these experiences because of its limitations of interactions through experiences. You're not going to find source coming down here and having this spot of tea. So just because of its lack of physical abilities of this dimension, even though it does reside in this dimension at the same time, but as it would be like the air, the electromagnetic fields, and that's about all that it does for consciousness. So every single one of these is linked together for our consciousness. Every single one of these consciousnesses interacts differently and will do things differently. Your higher self will do things differently than some of your astral bodies. They might have different opinions, different likes and dislikes because our experiences are very personal to us, which forges us of who and what we are. So,
Creates our uniqueness. Well,
yeah.
well said. Now, I think you mentioned at some point, which I found very interesting, when it comes to the oversoul and where it's located, or let's say the higher self. Um, in hypnotherapy, when people feel that they're talking to their higher self, or just in meditation when they think they're talking to their higher self, you said a lot of times they're talking actually to the astral body. Is that correct?
Yeah, sometimes people, again, you got to know where your sources are coming from. uh you know and and sometimes your astral body will communicate with you and it will either be or sound like something else. Your astral body could be male and you could be born female on this planet, so you're gonna hear a male voice and people can get very confused on that for situations. It could have an older voice, a younger voice.
Well, in good hypnotherapy, they always ask, is this the higher self we're talking to? Is this, so there's always checks and balances, but
Yes.
it's interesting. So, is there anything you want to add before we end to that overall picture of the oversoul, higher self, that you feel is important for people to know?
Um, Trying to think. It's been a long day. I feel like it's very important for people to get to know themselves on all aspects, to be able to discern who they are talking to of themselves, to not be manipulated or dragged in the wrong directions. I am a firm believer that it is also important when you talk to source to ask which source it is, and you're going to have to speak directly and clearly. So say I'm channeling source, I need to be like, is this the source creation consciousness of this universe or a different one? You got to kind of play like the direct associate with this and ask very direct questions.
And that even takes us back to the start of it, where the source of all that people are accessing, that would be a good question too, to for me to have stated or clarify what's, who, what. It's very tricky because it's almost like the Russian dolls where one sits inside the
Yeah. Yeah. But
so yeah, I'm it. No, I'm it. No, I'm it. It's a very interesting concept.
well, and the thing is that a lot of people's astral bodies, if you're like, well, how do I know which one is prime? You got to be careful because every astral body will think that they're prime. All of your higher self will think that it's prime, you know, because you have to define in yourself what is prime, which one is the beginning, because if they have the ability to create anything down, they're going to think they're prime.
Oh, that's fascinating. So you have to ask, are you the earliest one or the oldest one or something?
Yeah, it's really just best to ask if you are the oversoul because you only have one oversoul. You will only ever have one oversoul. So, and your oversoul is right below source consciousness. The oversoul is your identity outside of source consciousness. It is where all of your memories of your higher self go into after it's done. So your oversoul doesn't really generally have a form, because it is literally like one iota above consciousness, and consciousness is just pretty much vibration of consciousness at this point. So
Like a quantum field. So
yeah, yeah. So the physics are very dumbed down still.
is the oversoul where the fractal or shard or essence returns to?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that depends on what essence, because your astral body will always return to your higher self unless that astral body specifically says, go to your oversoul, go to your oversoul. Now, when we were talking about like, where do I go when I die? Or everyone's like, go to your oversoul, go to your oversoul. But they need to understand that your oversoul is the true you outside of source. It will not lead you astray.
Mhm.
It is like your absolute truth. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, but you got to get to know yourself still because you still might not want to be a part of that yet. You know.
And does the oversoul have I know it's unique with everybody, but kind of a very neutral, all is good, all is evolving, grand,
It is a
It's
consciousness and it has the ability to evolve in any direction.
wow. So exciting. Well, I want to honor one more subscriber who's been very patient to get the answer to his question so that we're more or less caught up uh, with most of the subscribers' questions. And his moniker is Unknown Super Soldier. And he says, I'm one of the Greek personalities that Apollymi described a little bit in her show. I hold evidence of this. I have a question. I know higher density beings like me can exist in multiple densities at the same time. Can our fifth density self visit our fourth density self in a fourth density world in a physical humanoid form? I remember that it's true, but it helps to get confirmation from someone else. Thank you.
And the answer is yes. A person's higher self can fractal astral bodies in the same universe, in the same densities. So it is possible. With me being, aspects of Apollo and bridged, Apollo is still alive. Apollo could come and visit me, and we would be physically standing next to each other. It's awkward. But especially after you realize that you're like, oh, hey, look at that. Okay. Because you both have different personalities and you look different and your existence is different, but you come from the same higher self. So, yes, it is possible. It's just, it can be a little awkward.
Oh my gosh, so much to explore, people. Well, this has certainly been a clarifying and expansive, mind-bending, soul-mending conversation. And thank you so much, Apollymi, with your super busy schedule for sharing your many gifts and being such a knowledgeable teacher and for being one of the very first and insistent beings to request from the higher ups that there needs to be soul auditing. And we greatly appreciate all that you've done and your reformation work as well that is ongoing. You are truly a blessing for Mother Earth Gaia and us all. Thank you.
Of course. I I do what I can to help. So I will definitely be doing a lot more in space when the time comes, and uh, I good luck, everybody. Hey, you guys have a great team for the future. I have faith in them and leading everybody on Earth to a new golden age of education and enlightenment.
We will. We're going to get through. So,
I'll be rooting from you guys from the space side.
so thank you so much, folks and extended family, for your curiosity and willingness to move past the programming mindset that, oh my God, of overwhelm, and just trust that you will absorb what you need to absorb, and it's in your files if you need it, and it will fall into place. It takes a while. Just allow it to be so because we're moving towards our soul liberation of this fractal and essence. So please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And as you know, Apollymi receives no contacts. So if you have any questions, you can send them to Merrily at cosmicbrilliance.com, and I will make sure they're addressed. We're all caught up except for two, and I try and have her answer the questions when the topics are related to the questions. So I don't forget, and I honor all of you who care enough to write in and comment. So blessings and onwards and upwards. Take care.